Thank you so much for attending my PowerPoint presentation on World of Warcraft's darkest secrets. Chinal tent skins. Null tents are made from tanned human skin. If you look closely at any Null encampment in Elwyn Forest, Westfall, or Redridge Mountains, you'll notice something peculiar about the fabric of their shelters. Those aren't treated hides from animals. Those are stretched human faces sewn into leather. The tanning process preserved enough detail that you can see eye sockets, facial structure, and what used to be someone's mouth forming decorative patterns across the canvas. This environmental detail has been in the game since 2004. Nulls across multiple continents use the same construction technique. The faces are positioned prominently, suggesting this isn't accidental disposal, but deliberate design. Someone at Blizzard modeled these tents, textured them with human remains, and placed them in starting zones where level 5 characters go to complete their first kill 10 gnolls quest. You've probably murdered hundreds of gnolls, camped their villages for respawns, farmed them for linen cloth, and you never once noticed you were standing inside someone's grandfather. The human faces are right there in the texture. You just never looked up from your loot window long enough to see them. Blizzard never explained this. No quest mentions it. No lore book addresses null interior decorating preferences. The faces are simply there, staring at you while you vendor trash. Moving on, the children of Goldshire. At 7 a.m. server time, 6 children spawn in Goldshire and walk to the second floor of a house near the skinning trainer. Their names are Dana, Aaron, Cameron, John, Jose, and Lisa. They stand in a perfect pentagram formation. Cameron always occupies the center. They remain silent and motionless for approximately 10 minutes, then walk through Elwyn Forest in the same pentagram pattern, visiting specific locations that form a larger pentagram on the zone map. If you stand in the center of their formation and check your coordinates, you are exactly 666 yards from the Elwyn Forest and Stormwind border. Random sound files play in their room. Banshee screams, ghoul calls, Sathun whispering, "You will die," and a woman crying. Sometimes Cameron says, "You remember Sathun? Good old Sathun." In the grass southwest of the house, you can find 2 tiny skulls. Players theorize these were murdered children, references to demonic possession, or set up for a scourge event. The actual explanation is considerably less interesting. According to level designer John Stotts, the children are references to Blizzard's dungeon department employees: Aaron Keller, Dana Sean, John Stotts, Jose Aelo Jr., Cameron Lamprecht, and Lisa Schoner. The exterior level designers added them as part of a friendly workplace rivalry. They made Dana's character female because his first name sounded feminine, and they added all the spooky sounds and evil references specifically to mess with people. So congratulations. You spent years crafting elaborate theories about demonic children, when the truth is that some game developers thought it would be funny to put their co-workers in a pentagram. Truly inspiring. Next up is the Slaughtered Lamb Basement. The Slaughtered Lamb is a pub in Stormwind's Mage Quarter. The top floor is abandoned except for the bartender, Sherelle Moore, who offers one piece of advice to anyone who enters: stay away from the shadows. Behind him is a spiraling staircase that descends into a basement and catacombs where the warlocks of Stormwind practice their craft away from public scrutiny. The basement features summoning circles, demonic altars, pentagrams carved into stone, and various NPCs teaching new warlocks how to bind demons to their will. This is not an illegal operation. Warlocks are not banned from the Alliance. They are simply not welcomed in polite company, so the King of Stormwind provided them with a sanctioned underground facility in his capital city where they can summon infernals and drain souls without bothering anyone upstairs. The pub's name references the tavern from An American Werewolf in London, which is fitting given that both establishments serve as fronts for supernatural horror happening just out of sight. Players receive quests directing them to the basement for warlock class training. You walk down the stairs, see the pentagrams, chat with a demon instructor, learn a new spell, and walk back up. Nobody addresses this. No guard patrol checks what's happening down there. The arrangement is simply accepted. Lore suggests the Enclave requires permission from the cathedral's High Inquisitor and potentially the king himself for any arrests within its walls. So the Alliance solution to the warlock problem was to give them a dedicated torture basement and hope they keep the screaming to a minimum. Problem solved. Next is the upside-down Sinners of Karajan. Behind Karajan, in a graveyard called Morgan's Plot, there is a gate leading to the Forgotten Crypt. The gate was blocked at launch and remained inaccessible through normal means until Legion. Players found exploits to bypass the barrier by dying near the gate and running through as ghosts, or using various wall jumping techniques. Inside, they discovered an unfinished dungeon containing several rooms with names like the Tomb of the Unrepentant and the Crypt of Criminals. The most notable room is the Upside Down Sinners. It is a large, flooded torture chamber containing dozens of human corpses chained upside down in water. The bodies hang from meat hooks attached to heavy chains. They are missing their hands and eyes. The room is silent except for ambient dungeon sounds. No enemies patrol the area. No quest directs you here. It simply exists. Players theorize that Blizzard removed the crypt to avoid raising World of Warcraft's ESRB rating from teen to mature. Community manager Bashiot clarified that the area was never intended for release and was simply abandoned during development when plans changed. Level designer John Stotts later confirmed the room was inspired by the hell of the Upside Down Sinners from John Carpenter's Big Trouble in Little China. The connection to Medivh's corruption by Sargeras remains unclear, as does the purpose of the torture chamber itself. In Legion patch 7.3.0, Blizzard made the crypt partially accessible to players who solved the riddle of the Lucid Nightmare puzzle. So they built a nightmare dungeon, left it in the game files for 12 years, and finally opened it as a reward for solving riddles. The bodies are still there. Moving on to the secret of Old Ironforge. Old Ironforge, also known as the Hall of Thanes or the Assembly of Thanes, is a chamber deep beneath the High Seat in Ironforge. The entrance was sealed from vanilla WoW through Wrath of the Lich King. Players exploited their way inside using wall jumping techniques in the bank or phasing through the closed gate, discovering a massive natural cavern formation. No dwarf has touched this area with pick or chisel. The stone formations are organic and untouched. The chamber serves as the burial site for Ironforge's kings. The old throne sits here among the honored dead, but the true purpose of Old Ironforge is housing the Ironforge itself, an ancient weathered anvil that is perhaps the greatest Titan artifact ever unearthed. The Titan Khaz'goroth gave this to the dwarves. Bran Bronzebeard believes that as dwarves uncover more truths about their ancestry, they will find greater uses for it. He believes the Titans must have given it to them for a reason. The dwarves do not use this holy anvil. They keep it near their honored dead and the seat of their power, and they look at it respectfully. That is the extent of their interaction with the most powerful crafting tool in existence. In Cataclysm, King Magni Bronzebeard opened the sealed gates to perform a Titan ritual to commune with the earth. The ritual turned him into diamond. He stood crystallized on what became known as Magni's dais until he awakened in Legion. The chamber was officially opened to players in patch 4.1.0 so they could visit his petrified body. A path leads over lava to two doors belonging to Agrim's study, which remain locked. So the dwarves have a god tier anvil, and their primary use for it is as ambiance for a tomb. Extraordinary, I know. Next is the Hungering Cold. Scholomance was an educational institution before the Scourge converted it into an undead research facility. The students did not graduate. They became experiments. Throughout the dungeon, you find living humans kept in cages, buried up to their necks in soil like plants. The quest refers to them as seedlings. You are given two options: free them from their torment, or bash their heads in for quest completion. Both choices grant the same experience points and reputation. One of the bosses, Rattlegore, is an abomination constructed from the body parts of specific named NPCs. Ray D, Tyr, Jitters, Getz, and Kalaba were farmers and citizens you could interact with before Cataclysm. The Scourge harvested them and stitched them together into a single entity called the Ray Getz Kalaba monstrosity. You kill this amalgamation of people who had names and identities, and you receive loot. In Nakramas, the boss, Thaddeus, represents the industrialized apex of this horror. He is constructed from the flesh and souls of women and children. If you play with sound enabled and volume increased, you hear them screaming. A woman desperately cries for help throughout the encounter. The screams do not stop until you defeat Thaddeus, because the voice is coming from inside him. The souls are trapped in a behemoth made from their own skin. The Scourge treated human processing as a manufacturing pipeline. They had dark plague cauldrons throughout the eastern plague lands, producing diseased meat on an industrial scale. Scholomance was the research and development division. Naxxramas was full production, and you get achievement points for clearing it efficiently. Next up is the Whispers of the Old Gods. Sathun whispers to you in Silithus and throughout Angiraj. You will die. Your friends will abandon you. Your courage will fail. You are already dead. These are not targeted voice lines triggered by proximity or quest progress. They are ambient audio that plays randomly while you exist in the zone. Sethun has been defeated. You killed him in the Temple of Anchiraj. The whispers continue. Yogg Saron employs a similar strategy in Northrend. Bow down before the god of death. They are coming for you. The shadow will consume you. His whispers appear in Grizzly Hills, Howling Fjord, and other zones with no connection to Ulduar. You killed Yogg Saron in his prison. The whispers persist. Some of them were prophecies that came true. Her heart is a crater, and we have filled it references Jaina Proudmoore and the destruction of Theramore, which occurred 2 expansions later. N'Zoth added his own whispers in battle for Azeroth. The vassal of life disguises treachery, likely refers to Sylvanas. 5 keys to open our way, 5 torches to light our path, may reference the pillars of creation. Players continue theorizing about what the whispers mean years after the content is no longer current. The old gods are imprisoned beneath the earth or dead, depending on which cosmic horror we are discussing. Their primary contribution to the destruction of Azeroth is whispering vague, ominous statements that play on a loop. They have spent thousands of years refining their craft. They are very good at saying death is close in a menacing tone. This is apparently sufficient to corrupt entire civilizations. The whispers are not directed at your character. They are ambient madness affecting the world itself, background radiation from entities whose existence alone causes sanity damage. You can turn off dialogue audio if they bother you. Next is the Sethun room in Anshiraj. The Sethun encounter features a separate stomach chamber that cannot be reached by normal means. Every 10 seconds during Phase 2, an untargetable tentacle emerges from the ground beneath a random raid member, devours them, and transports them to Sethun's stomach. You fall from the top of this new room into a pool of green stomach acid. Upon entering, you receive a debuff called Digestive Acid that deals 150 nature damage every 5 seconds. This debuff reapplies itself every 5 seconds and stacks indefinitely. After 20 seconds inside the stomach, you will have 5 stacks. The damage is not mitigated by nature resistance gear. You are being digested. Inside the stomach are 2 flesh tentacles with approximately 24,000 health each. They melee anyone within range. To weaken Sethun and remove his 99% damage reduction shield, players inside the stomach must kill both flesh tentacles. Once both are dead, Sethun becomes vulnerable for 45 seconds. This is the only way to damage him. To exit the stomach, you must swim to one of 3 small land masses. One land mass has a dark circle on it that projects you out of Sethun and back to the main room. If you do not position yourself at the center of this circle, you will be bounced against a wall and killed. If you die inside the stomach, you cannot be resurrected. Your body remains in the digestive tract permanently. Sethun was known as the Guild Breaker. In its original pre-nerf state, the encounter was mathematically impossible to complete with available gear. Blizzard hotfixed the boss multiple times before guilds achieved the first kills. Players who stayed in the stomach too long would die from stacking debuffs, so Blizzard added a 5-minute timer in a later patch to reset the encounter if you failed to exit properly. Raid success depends on correctly navigating an old god's gastrointestinal system. Truly a triumph of game design. Moving on to the souls in the soul engines. Soul engines are structures summoned by the Burning Legion alongside other Legion buildings and ships during their invasions. They are 2-floor buildings where harvested souls are collected and stored to power the Legion's war machines. The souls are not processed for information, not interrogated for strategic value, not tortured for sadistic pleasure. They are fuel. The Legion identified an energy crisis in their infinite conquest across the universe and solved it by using captured souls as batteries. Jailer demons are specifically responsible for capturing souls and delivering them to the engines. This is their assigned role in the Legion hierarchy. They have job descriptions, performance metrics, quotas for soul acquisition that they must meet to maintain their position in the demonic workforce. The souls themselves are stored in the engine chambers where they power various war machines required for the Legion's operations. This predates Shadowlands lore, establishing that souls are meant to travel to the afterlife for judgment and proper cosmic purpose. The Legion intercepted this process. When they conquer a world, they do not simply kill the population. They harvest the souls before they can reach their intended destination and repurpose them as renewable energy. The souls experience no release, no afterlife, no rest. just eternal consumption as fuel. Players destroy soul engines throughout Legion content. The structures explode. The souls inside are presumably lost forever, as there is no mechanic for releasing or saving them. You have eliminated the fuel source, which weakens the Legion's local operations. The souls that powered those operations are simply gone. This implies that across countless worlds conquered by the Legion over thousands of years, an incomprehensible number of souls have been converted into batteries. The Legion solved their logistical challenges through industrialized metaphysical atrocity, and nobody mentions it because demonic invasion has bigger immediate problems like the actual demons. Finally, we arrive at the mystery of the shifting sands. Around 975 years before the First War, the Chiraji, urged on by the old god Sithun, poured out of An-Chiraj in vast numbers and spread across Silithus. Archdruid Fandral Staghelm led a night elf force against them. The conflict went back and forth numerous times. The night elves pushed the Chiraji to the fortress walls. The Chiraji counterattacked and pushed them back. During one of these battles, Fandral's son, Valstan, was killed. The Night Elves could not defeat the Chiraji once and for all. Instead, they allied with the dragons Anachronos, Merithra, Erigos, and Kalistras to erect the Scarab Wall, trapping the Siraji within An-Siraj. None could pass the barrier, not by flying over it, not by tunneling under the ground. This was presented as victory. Anachronos created the Scepter of the Shifting Sands and the Scarab Gong, two artifacts needed to open the gates should the need ever arise. He entrusted the scepter to Fandral. Fandral, still grieving his son's death, shattered the scepter in rage. The fragments were lost for 1,000 years. The Gates of Anchiraj event required the entire server population to gather massive quantities of resources: food, bandages, metals, herbs. Players from both factions cooperated to meet the quotas. Once completed, elite guilds raced to complete the scepter questline. The first player to ring the Scarab Gong triggered a 10-hour war event and received the Black Shiraji Resonating Crystal, a legendary mount. The first server to complete this was Medivh on January 23rd, 2006. The Chiraji eventually found ways past the barrier anyway. Sithun slowly awakened. The wall that was supposed to contain cosmic evil forever lasted approximately 1,000 years before requiring the very solution it was designed to prevent. The Night Elves built a wall and called it victory. They could not defeat the threat, so they locked it away for future generations to handle. This is the strategic blueprint Azeroth uses for cosmic horror: postponement. In conclusion, World of Warcraft's universe is built on a foundation of horrors that nobody wants to address directly, and you should absolutely play it. If you enjoyed this PowerPoint presentation, I made others, and you should absolutely check them out. Peace on planet Earth.